we're going to discuss business process assessments or effectiveness reviews, why you should invest in it, and what's in it for your firm. We'll also discuss why an Aktion consultant should be considered as your trusted advisor. So what is an effectiveness review? Making the decision to move to a new integrated project management platform is a large undertaking for any firm, regardless of size. In addition to the financial investment, the change requires a large commitment of resources and often has a far-reaching cultural impact within your organization. From selecting the software to defining the implementation roadmap, preparing to embark on such an endeavor is often a lengthy decision, and it can be full of confusing options and competing interests. The review is an in-depth, process-based assessment of your current software functionality, business processes, your cultural strengths and weaknesses. The goal is to understand your firm and its history, how it functions on a day-to-day basis, what's working well, and where there's opportunities for improvement. There are several key factors in the review. The preliminary interview is a brief phone call where we collect basic information about your firm, review the upcoming steps, and answer any questions that you might have. This call is helpful to firms to better understand who to select to be on their review team. The pre-meeting data collection is a set of forms asking for detailed information about your company, the participants attending the meetings, and your current system. By collecting this data prior to the meetings, we can more effectively plan the agendas and better utilize the time that we have with your team. The database review is an analysis of your system configuration. This provides us with the basic information about the reach of the software into your firm, the areas of data integrated into the system, the level of automation in place, and the quality of the data used on a daily basis. We offer reviews on-site or remotely. The duration ranges from 1 to 3 days, depending on the size and complexity of your organization. During this time together, we discuss current processes, the strengths of those processes, and areas where you could be facing challenges or limitations. We may ask to meet with additional stakeholders, or we may even ask to run a survey of users to complete our understanding of your needs. The composition of your review team will vary depending on your organization. But most firms find that having a group comprised of representatives from management, human resources, accounting, project management, administration, IT, and business development is a very effective approach. This group will be involved for the duration of the review and should be in attendance throughout the meetings. Now, all the processes discussed may not directly impact every member, but the benefit is that they see the integration of the processes, and the ability to understand the entire picture has proven beneficial. We encourage you to also include team members with varying lengths of history with your firm. This allows us to hear a variety of perspectives and will allow us to provide the best recommendation for all of your stakeholders. Before the review, your team will determine its mission statement or desired outcome for the review. For many firms, as they look back on their last migration or upgrade, it may feel incomplete or as if it didn't meet all their expectations. There's a sense that they could still get more out of the software, that more employees should be utilizing the software, that redundancy still remain, that they could be more efficient in their processes, that there's more systems that they should integrate. Perhaps there's options that haven't been explored, or there's new features from Deltek that have been released, and those potential new features need to be evaluated. And what about all those spreadsheets that you were going to get rid of? How many of those are still in use today? A complete examination of all current procedures from marketing and back office to accounting and project management will be included in the assessment. The focus is to see where your firm is today and where it should be in the future. This is a chance to gauge where you currently stand with your business culture and procedures, with technology and training. Then develop a strategy for taking Vision or Vantagepoint to the next level. The past for you might be Vision 7.6 or Vantagepoint 4.5 or 5.0. It could even be an assortment of various software packages. Today is Vantagepoint 5.5. The future is Vantagepoint 6.0, 6.5, and beyond. So are you still wondering how your firm could benefit from the effectiveness review? At the end of the review, you'll receive the findings report. This comprehensive report contains our understanding of your current processes, systems, and culture, analysis of these findings, and our recommendations for improving any identified gaps, challenges, or areas for growth. But most importantly, you will not be left to work through this report on your own. We do give you and your team time to review and discuss the report. Then we schedule a follow-up call to answer any questions that you might have and begin planning your next steps. Now let's look at some of the areas the review will focus on. We'll talk about your culture, processes and procedures, technology, training, future preparation. We begin with a discussion of your company's culture. How well does your company handle change? While change is inevitable, sometimes it's welcomed and other times it's completely unwanted. After your review, if you decide to introduce new ways to manage your organization, it must be done in a manner that's well thought out so that it won't become unsettling. Proper testing, training, and boundaries must be in place so that the daily task and client needs are never compromised. What's the actual capacity your company has for change? There are several identifiable components that dictate how open and flexible an organization is to change. By identifying your firm's positioning on each of these measures and how they measure up against known benchmarks, a plan can be developed for strengthening weak areas and capitalizing on your areas of strength. With a complex organization, there will be some internal functions that must be standardized across all parts of the company. These are your global processes. But there's also areas where variations or true preference flexibility is possible. These variations may be requested by an office, a department, sometimes even an individual. It's important that the distinctions between global processes and flexible processes are clearly defined and the expectations are shared and understood. Without proper guidelines, redundancies commonly occur and will only increase over time. As we discuss technology, we'll evaluate areas that could benefit from automation. The beauty of automation is that it is repeatable. Some very simple illustrations are auto numbering, onboarding and separation checklist, automated go, no-go procedures, and even just enhancing communication between departments. But certainly more complex automation can be accomplished with scheduled workflows, stored procedures, SQL procedures, and customized reports and templates. Companies should present training in the 3 basic learning styles: by seeing, by hearing, and by doing. As individuals, we utilize all three methods, but we're stronger in some areas than we are others. For training, new hires that you have come on board need in-depth training. They can't be expected to know what questions to ask, and leaving them to figure it out on their own can lead to improvising and a variety of workarounds instead of your company's standardized processes. Training challenges also exist at the time of employee promotions or when new initiatives are rolled out. Training needs to include regularly scheduled sessions such as lunch and learns. But documentation and videos need to be available so employees can access them on an as-needed basis. So if your company desires to be a learning organization, it's critical that training be valued and required of all your team members. Another important area that we look at is how to prepare your company for the future. A key component of this preparation is leadership mentoring. Current team leaders should mentor those that show the potential as well as the inclination to become future leaders. This type of leadership training leads to a methodical transition in leadership and gives everyone the reassurance that the best interests of the company are understood and are being planned for. What can your firm expect from this findings report? The report begins with recommendations that will provide immediate benefits for your firm. These might be configuration or setting changes, or they may be some specific training. But any changes that we recommend to your current system will always be suggested with a forward-looking approach to allow for immediate needs as well as future growth. This will put your company on a firm foundation, ready to take full advantage of new features on the Deltek horizon. Now, why should you work with an Aktion consultant? The selection of your software was a lengthy process where you invested a great deal of time and thought. The selection of your trusted advisor should be reviewed and researched just as thoroughly. Aktion has a team of 20-plus Deltek consultants specializing in application configuration, training, implementation, mergers and acquisitions, multi-company, multi-currency, third-party integrations, custom reports, and many other custom solutions. We work with you to get Deltek to fit your needs. Outside of your ERP solution, we know that your culture and your people are your top priority. We strive to make their processes easy to use while maintaining your company's standards and requirements. Using Deltek might be 50% or less of your employee workday, but at Aktion, our team uses Deltek 100% of every day. Aktion consultants work directly with Deltek when new releases are coming out, plus we always participate in the early adopter programs, and all Aktion consultants are Deltek Master Certified. Now let's meet our panel, our special guests today. I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves to you and tell you about their experience with an effectiveness review. So Tricia, I'd like to start with you.
Hello, my name is Tricia Rosina. I work for ACT Engineers. We are a firm of 25 people, and we do civil, environmental, and coastal engineering, land and hydrographic survey, landscape architecture, and public outreach services. We had Deltek Vision for many years, and then we moved to Deltek Vantagepoint in July last year. And 2 years before that, in July of 2020, we had our effectiveness review with Nidra. It was absolutely eye-opening. We learned so much. We learned things that we should do We learned things that we were doing that we didn't need to do, and we could save time by not doing them. And we're still working on some of these things. We didn't have to accomplish everything all at once. We have spent a lot of time with Nidra working through different things. We really took a lot of time to work through different topics from the effectiveness review. I would definitely suggest taking the time that the team at Aktion presents and says, hey, it'd be great if you take this amount of time per day or week or whatever, because it was so helpful. And we really could not have done it without Nidra and the team at Aktion to move to Vantagepoint smoothly.
Well, thanks, Tricia. And Dan, now can you introduce yourself to us?
Everybody, my name is Dan Leonard. I'm the Director of Financial Planning Analysis with CPL Architects, Engineers, Landscape Architect, and Surveyor. We are a approximately 470-person firm headquartered in Rochester, New York. We have markets in 5 states: Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, Georgia. We really do business in several different markets: healthcare space, both higher ed and K-12. We have a pretty large civil and municipal practice, and then we do some transportation work as well. I joined the firm approximately 18 months ago and was tasked with system optimization, specifically our Deltek ERP. We also are currently on Deltek Vision. We had a pretty antiquated on-prem instance of the solution, and we came to quickly realize that we were underutilizing that software without really a lot of internal resources who had a lot of expertise with kind of a new support team coming in. We went out to the market and looked for a consultant to come in and help guide us through the process of not only optimizing our Deltek instance, but a vision, but also looking to the future and working towards a Deltek Vantagepoint migration. So we did decide to work with Aktion. I've been working with Hillary probably more than she would like over the past 6 to 8 months. We conducted our effectiveness review. I believe it was back in March or April of 2021. I would most certainly echo Tricia's comments regarding the effectiveness review. It was incredibly eye-opening. We had an entire implementation team that sat through the 2-day session, including folks from our operations groups, some of our practice leaders, as well as our CFO, who was also new to the firm, and our president of operations. And what became very clear, not only were there so many things we could be doing more effectively and more efficiently, but we quickly realized kind of the level of expertise of Hillary and her team, and we're very impressed with their knowledge, really the depth of what their understanding of the system and the underlying back-end components, and really their ability to there's a huge longing here at CPL to kind of learn the system and try to integrate new solutions. We really just don't know how, so we have a lot of questions. And Hillary and her team have always been able to effectively work through a lot of just sometimes at random questions that we have as things come up, or as we think of processes we'd like to change. And so we've kind of broken we're a pretty decent sized firm. We've broken our implementation to Vantagepoint into 4 phases. We completed a Deltek Vision phase, optimization phase, subsequently after our effectiveness review, and have quickly been able to benefit from some of the suggestions in that review, and a lot of the process improvements we've worked through with Hillary. We're now moving into the cloud actually this week, moving our instance in the cloud, and then we'll begin this quarter the process of moving over to Vantagepoint. And Hillary and her team and Aktion have been with us every step of the way. They're part of our project plan. We almost have daily contact with them. We have weekly meetings scheduled Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So they dedicate 5 hours calendarized, and then the additional time they spend responding to our various emails and one-off requests. Hillary quickly, upon joining our team and joining the project with us, brought in additional resources as needed, both from a back-end solution support perspective and from a expertise perspective. She brought in some financial advisors and some other support staff to help her meet our needs. So it's been a great relationship, and really looking forward to the next couple phases here.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate you and Tricia both joining us as guests today and your perspective on the effectiveness review. Do we have any questions now for either of our panelists, or me, or for Hillary?
Yes, we do. We got a couple of questions that came in the chat. The first one is, what if we want to focus on specific areas instead of the entire database?
Yes, of course we can do this. We want to and we'll cover that in the initial call that we have with you to see where you're looking for help. But we can have a heavier focus. I think that we would still do an overview of your system, but then really focus in on where the problem areas are in this review.
Yeah, and I can speak, this is Dan from CPL. I can speak to that a little bit from my experience. As I mentioned, after our effectiveness review, we initially consulted with Aktion to help us move to Vantagepoint, but we were able, through the effectiveness review process and some of our consultations, to really hone in on a couple areas that we wanted to fix in Deltek Vision first, and we really called it a Deltek Vision optimization. So we actually restructured our entire organization hierarchy in Deltek Vision, and also implemented some pretty specialized, customized processes on the front end of the project management lifecycle, and started using opportunities and some other functionality that we had not been using prior to consulting with Aktion.
Well, that was a very energetic undertaking there to redo your orgs.
It's been a lot of fun, right, Hillary?
It's so much fun. We laugh weekly on the regular.
Yes.
We always are smiling and having fun. And I think one of the things too, in effectiveness review, we've done kind of a mini one, which may be just like a day of work or effort that we work with you. But Dan, I think we were on site for 2 days, and I've done some that have even been 3-day effort. So we do try to scope and work with you to tailor it to your needs and requests ahead of time, both for like the statement of work and then also the execution, because we've done them remotely as well as on site, because certainly your team and your culture, we want to work the best there. And sometimes having that face-to-face, it just really is worth it. And sometimes it's hard to engage people remotely, as we all know and struggle with.
I think that Hillary kind of covers the next question we got, which is, can we invite people outside of the core team to join certain sessions?
Absolutely, you can. And what I typically do after we have the initial call is I will send the agenda for their sessions, and the core team is welcome to invite different people to specific topics like HR or accounting, project managers, that that they want to get some additional input outside of the team that they've put together for the entire review. Dan, did you ever have any others join any of the sessions, or was it the same core team?
I would echo your sentiment. I mean, we definitely have. We initially set up a core, implementation team for Vantagepoint, but as I mentioned, we quickly determined that there were some pretty foundational elements of the Deltek environment that needed to be addressed, and customized our project accordingly. We have representatives from the practice teams, and we brought in other representatives as necessary, or had core team members kind of sprout off and work separately with other teams to complete tasks related to the project. And right now we're working on a billing automation, a billings terms automation, where we're almost exclusively working with the billing team, who is not part of the core project team. So yes, I think Action has been incredibly accommodating. We also have separate financial meetings each week, or I think maybe bi-weekly, with members of the finance team who are not part of the core implementation team, to kind of work through the various items and questions we're coming up with as we work to optimize.
Okay, great, thanks. And Tricia, I know I worked with you. It's been a while, but I do think that we had some of your principals join on, or at least we asked them some different questions and things like that. So did we have others that joined different sessions that we had?
Yes, our core team was available for each session, and then we had people from AP or the principals join, and even project managers for different pieces.
So how do you feel like the reception was outside the core team when you brought in other leadership or other departments?
The AP and principals are fully on board. Some of the project managers are still having a little hard time because it's change and different. So we're still working through, and we're implementing things a little at a time. We're not doing it all at once, to try to help people adjust.
Great approach. Thank you.
Great. Another question came in. How long does it take to get the report?
Hillary, you want to take that one?
We try to get it within a business week from when we meet with you. Trying to think, Dan, if I met that or not, but so you would know more clearly. But that is the intent, that within a business week from when we wrap up the review, we try to provide the report. I know that if we've done remote sessions, because they might be scheduled over multiple weeks or duration, that we provide supplemental notes in between each session. And certainly when we're on site, we also have our notes that are more readily available than the individual report. So some clients have found those helpful as well.
Hillary, I think, I think there might have been, I believe there were also additional questions. We did, it's a lot to try to squeeze in even to 2 full days. So I think, a week is a great goalpost to set, but there was some follow-up, I think, in our case, where we did have some additional information we were sharing back and forth before the review was completed. So I think it might have taken a couple weeks for us. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, and I think the main thing is, Dan, we were communicating during that time. That there, that's really the key, through any step of the process, and even for the report, to stay in communication with each other. And we certainly do that.
And I often find, as I'm putting the report together, that I come up with other questions. and, go back and ask and follow up as I'm putting it together. So.
Questions about questions.
Mhm.
And this is the last question we got in. So if you guys have any other questions, please add them to our chat. How does an effectiveness review benefit us if we're planning to move to Vantagepoint in the near future?
Hillary, you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Sure, I will. I think if you're moving to Vantagepoint, we always recommend a planning session. So the effectiveness review really kind of serves also as that planning session, and it helps whoever you work with not just make recommendations, but there's a lot of low hanging fruit you can do in vision. And then, like Dan has a longer process of saying maybe a recommendation, you should hold off on that because we know you're going to have to redo it or invest more time in it because of changes in Vantagepoint coming. So I think whether it's, you're staying on Vision for a while, you're on Vantagepoint today, or you plan to go to Vantagepoint tomorrow, effectiveness review, it's more like that litmus test of how much are you using or getting out of the program? What else can you achieve or do? And I don't know that it matters so much if it's Vision or Vantagepoint today or tomorrow, because you'll have an expert consultant that'll make those recommendations as far as when is the best time to invest your manpower into executing them.
Found that in our effectiveness review, there were many things that we needed to clean up before we moved to Vantagepoint. So it was just hugely beneficial to us to have the effectiveness review done in Vision so that we could do things and not bring problems with us when we moved over into Vantagepoint.
I would second both what Tricia and Hillary said there. I think from BPL's perspective, we as a firm had this notion that moving to everybody talked about moving to Vantagepoint as this kind of this magic migration that was going to fix all of our problems. And I think the effectiveness review really helped me in framing what those of us who were intimately using the system were afraid of was that that wasn't really the answer. Just changing systems isn't necessarily the fix. Not even necessarily. It definitely is not. It's not going to fix all of the things that are causing you issues from a process perspective. So the effectiveness review really helped us frame kind of the argument that really we have to also be focusing on underlying internal process and optimizing our current system where it's the process and or the functionality is going to be the same, just look a little different in Vantagepoint. If we don't fix the underlying problem with that process, Vantagepoint's going to be nothing's going to change when we move to Vantagepoint either.
It's like timesheets, it won't just take care of itself.
Right. Late time sheets aren't going to change just because we're in Vantagepoint.
We also found that, speaking of timesheets, we were posting time a week at a time, and we didn't know that we could split a week for the beginning and end of the month. And it was something that helped us incredibly to get billing out faster immediately. And we made the change immediately. So it's something that helped the bottom line right away.
That's excellent.
That is great. That is the end of our questions. Nidra, Hillary, Tricia, Dan, do you guys have anything else you would like to add? Any questions you might have for Hillary and Nidra?
Oh no, I won't. I most certainly won't use this forum for questions for Hillary. She's got her own speed dial, so she back her down after this. Thanks for having me.
Thank
you very much.
And thank you everyone who joined us today. Nidra and Hillary, excellent presentation as always. Tricia and Dan, we really appreciate your time and you guys joining us as guests, providing your feedback and kind words. For everyone else, if you'd like to receive a copy of today's recording, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Liz Sidney. My contact information is in the chat for reference. Nidra and Hillary's are on the screen. If you would like a copy of that recording, I'll get it to you as soon as possible. Nidra and Hillary will be following up and in touch. And at the end of this session, there will be a quick survey pop up in your browser window. Please fill that out. Your feedback is important to us. And again, thank you everyone for your time and for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you.